the federal government is going to start implementing hiring caps. That means once a number is hit, there's no more hiring. There's no bypassing, no exemptions, no waivers. The numbers are set in stone. So for example, this is happening in the VA right now. Let's say VHA has a 300,000 limit. VBA has a 20,000 limit. What happens when Congress approves a new veteran program to expand health care? Are you going to be able to flex? Can you make the adjustment? Not so easily. Not anymore. So how was the old way? How did we used to do things? Well, agencies had more discretion. So offices within an agency, if there was a change, they could react to it quicker by increasing hiring, lowering hiring. They had that flexibility. What's going on in the VA right now is, let's say you have an office that's understaffed. They're at 70%, so they're 30% understaffed. The VA could look at that and say, well, they're still getting the mission accomplished, so let's go ahead and codify that. Let's lock that in. 70% is the new standard. Now, the individuals in the office, although they're getting the mission complete, they could be burnt out or near burned out. Does that matter? Well, in this situation, it doesn't really matter. So the VA has to remember that as they're thinking about this and setting these caps, they have an issue. There's a big problem over there when it comes to nurses, doctors, medical staff. They don't have enough. And the main reason they don't have enough is what I just mentioned: burnout. Burnout, high workloads. So what we're talking about is essentially keeping them in that state and increasing the attrition that the VA is experiencing in jobs they need the most. So why would you do that? You would do it if you were preparing your organization or your agency to be privatized, because you would throw your hands up and say, we can't do it. We can't get the mission done. We need to contract the task out. This is something the VA has been very good at. If you look at how many contractors the VA is currently paying, there's about 50,000 contractors. And that has cost the VA $30 billion a year. You might ask yourself, is that normal? Does that number sound right? Well, if you think about it, 20 years ago, it was 700% less than that. It has grown by 7 times the amount. I'm talking about contracting companies like Leidos, like Booz Allen Hamilton, those type of contractors, the ones that give nice contributions to our politicians, the ones that are just so kindly giving millions of dollars to help congressional representatives get elected. That whole system is being amplified. People want to lean more heavily into that system. Less federal workers, more contractors, more billions of dollars being spent. The next 2 federal agencies that will probably follow suit is the Department of Defense, which is the largest federal agency by a large margin, and also the Department of Homeland Security. But really, we could see this happening in every large to medium federal agency. And there will need to be quarterly and annual workforce reviews. Those reports will probably go up to the OPM to make sure everyone's following along. And this could present itself as another barrier when it comes to recruiting talent, when it comes to recruiting highly qualified individuals. Now, speaking of recruiting, the OPM director recently had a nice little interview, sat down, answered some questions. And one of the questions that came across was, do you believe that stability is important? Or something like that. I'm paraphrasing it. The OPM director says, I think that stability is a horrible reason to recruit. For an individual that wants a job, stability is horrible. It's a horrible thing. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? How can stability be a horrible thing? How detached are you from the common worker where you think that is an undesirable thing? Stability, a stable paycheck, being able to pay your mortgage or rent month after month, where you don't have to worry about getting fired because somebody has a mood change up in senior management. You don't have to worry about that. It's stable. Stability should be desirable, right? Now, somewhere along the line, we conflated stability with poor performance. We think that solely because a job has stability, then we must have poor performers. They're not going to perform to standard because why should they? They have a stable job. I think that is a ridiculous concept And you can have both. You can have a stable job and you can hire a high performer. This is not the private sector where people just rush in for like 6 months and then they go ahead and jump and do something else and this company gets laid off and gets bought out by another company. There's so many people that want the federal workforce to run like the private sector, but it's not the private sector. It has a whole completely different mission. There is no profits to be had in the majority of these agencies. But when it came to another question that the OPM director answered, I completely agree and I'm 100% aligned with what he said. And basically it was, how do widespread layoffs impact an organization? And he learned in the private sector that during widespread layoffs, there's a lot of broken trust and confidence, not just with the people you lay off, but also with the survivors, the people that do not get laid off. So what does that mean in the federal government? We have seen 300,000 people squeezed out of the federal workforce this year. 300,000. So it's not just them, not just the 300,000, it's not them and their families, but also the federal workers that stayed behind. Because what is now imprinted into their memory is they have lost a certain degree of trust and confidence in their leadership. And this is more so at certain agencies than other agencies, but nonetheless, there's a certain degree of trust and confidence that has been lost, and they're going to remember that as they progress in their career. It's going to determine whether they want to stay in public service as a civil servant. Do they want to stay in the federal government, maybe jump at a different agency and continue to contribute? Or do they feel betrayed? Do they feel they were told one thing and something else happened and now they want to look elsewhere? And I've been saying this for a long time, but when you squeeze an organization, when you do mass layoffs or you do a purge, which was essentially done in certain areas of the federal government, when you purge individuals, really the high performers and the people that are highly talented, they leave first. Even if you don't push them out, you create the environment in which they escape. So if you really want to maintain the high caliber individuals, you would have never have done what was done, right? You wouldn't have created an environment where people felt unwelcome. They felt they were a burden. They felt they were a parasite. They felt like they were on the wrong side of history. You wouldn't have created that environment, because by creating that environment is what caused so many of the top talented individuals to leave civil service. Now, in addition to all of that, what we're witnessing right now is a surge in ICE, Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. They want 10,000 people and they want them now. They want you. They want your cousin. They want your nephew. They want everybody. They want them down there signing the papers. And to sweeten the deal or to seal the deal, they're going to give you $50,000. So if you can use an extra $50,000 in your checking account, or maybe you know somebody who could use it, then you might actually seriously consider this. Now, it depends on what you value and what you think is the right thing. There's a lot of questions that come into the equation, but it is an opportunity for some people. Now, if you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.